Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Dr. Paul is taking the day off today, so Daniel and I will be covering last night's incredible debate. I only planned on watching 30 minutes of it tops. I'm not really interested in the debates. They annoy me, if anything. But it was so bad that I ended up watching the whole thing. So this is a huge story that everyone is talking about today, and we're going to give our opinions on what happened last night, what we think about it. Before we do that, our viewers on Friday are familiar that we have a partnership with Birch Gold. Gold is has been money for thousands of years. We have a partnership with them where they help educate people on investing in gold, protecting your wealth. Government hates gold. They hate that it is the real money because they cannot counterfeit it. So they much prefer digits and paper money that they can counterfeit to fund all their wars and welfare. So there are a lot of people that have no idea how to get involved in gold. What do you do? Who do you contact? Where do you start? We have a great partnership. We like this company very much, Birch Gold. They will give you free information on where to start, what your options are, even if it's not something that you're prepared to do this day. It doesn't hurt to at least know what options are available in the future. So we always recommend every Friday, please text Ron to 989898. That'll connect you with Birch. They will give you free information to get you started, and you can go from there to whatever suits your needs. So please do that. Text Ron to 989898. So Daniel, why don't you get us started on last night's debate?
Well, like you, I was surprised at how dull it was in many places, and I was able to laugh a few times. I mean, I loved the Hillary-Trump debates before the 2016 vote. I thought they were fantastic. It was great entertainment, but this was less so. I think a lot of the problem, Chris, was the rules. I think the rules just totally dampened the whole thing. Trump is the kind of person that has got to be in front of a crowd. He feeds off the crowd, and I don't think he was at his top. And if Biden hadn't been at his bottom, it would have looked worse for Trump. He looked good in comparison, but no live audience, terrible. This whole cutting you off thing, maybe it worked to Biden's advantage because they thought he'd be more prepared for it. Unfortunately, the meds wore off about 20 minutes into it, and it went downhill from there. But it just didn't have the dynamism. There are a couple of zingers, but I don't know how you feel, Chris, but I wasn't. Yeah, I laughed, but it wasn't that great.
No, and I watched with several of my family members, and right from the get-go, once Biden opened his mouth, it was like, it was shocking to us. And I've watched a lot of debates throughout my life, and the thought that kept coming through my mind throughout the night was, what a poor reflection of American society this is. Or maybe our society is struggling, but this debate made us look worse than it actually is. It was shocking. And the state is only good at a few things. A, they're good at destruction. Yeah. And B, propaganda. But propaganda this is what they specialize in. This is a organization of people that sucks trillions of dollars away from us. You have to have almost perfect propaganda to pull that off year after year. So, but their propaganda just fell to pieces yesterday. It was like the Wizard of Oz, where they just pulled the curtain in front of the entire world and showed this is what the United States is. What a huge embarrassment. So that was my thought.
I mean, I think it's a fitting analogy, though. You have two geriatrics screaming, "We're number one! We're number one!" I mean, that is the state of the country in a way. I mean, and I think it was, it was not surprising to you and I, and of course our viewers who are very astute. But I think it was a surprise for a large portion of the country that gets its news from the mainstream media. They have Karine Jean-Pierre saying all of these clips and things of Biden looking like he's lost it. That's just cheap fakes. It's totally untrue. But trust us. Well, it turns out they lied to us again. It wasn't a cheap fake. It was a reality. And I think a lot of America who believes the mainstream media got a wake-up call yesterday when they saw the realities.
No, I agree. And, we know that the media lies constantly. But yeah, the cheap fakes, the fact that she even said that, it was nothing, there was no fakes. He showed the world the true condition. And the thing is, when you look at all the Democrats now, all the pundits and talking heads, it's as if they believed all of these lies the whole way through. It's like they're shocked. Many people that are on X, on social media, this wasn't shocking. We've known this, but they've been denying it so long. And, the right, you don't just want to pick on the left. The right does this with wars. With Afghanistan and Iraq, we're always turning the corner and turning the corner. Afghanistan should not have been a surprise the way it just collapsed. It was all lies, So they believe their lies, and then when it all falls apart, we're not surprised, but they're shocked.
Yeah, shocked, I tell you. You think they'd know. But you know who else is shocked? Because they probably knew it, and you're right, they lie all the time, which is the mainstream media. And there's nothing they want more and demand more than power. The power to be the gatekeepers, the power to project government propaganda onto us, rather than, of course, Chris, the role of the Fourth Estate, which is to challenge the power on behalf of the people. That's what the media is supposed to do. Well, we're a sick society in the U.S., and so they feel have the opposite role, which is to protect the power because we get the goodies. Well, from the looks of the papers this morning, Chris, they are in full-fledged panic because, as you appropriately pointed out, we've seen the wizard, and it doesn't look like we were promised. So if you don't mind, Chris, I want to put up a couple of clips of just some headlines of how the New York Times, the paper of record, is having a massive freak out. If we can put that first one up, I'll just read the headlines. Pardon me, but that first clip is pretty telling because these are their heavy hitters. Thomas Friedman, Frank Bruni, and the House, op-ed. So Friedman says, Joe Biden is a good man and a good president. He must bow out of the race. And Frank Bruni said, Biden cannot go on like this. And the third op-ed is Ezra Klein, Ross Stewart, and Michelle, I can't even read it from here. Is Biden too old? America got its answer. And if you go to the next one, you can see, Chris, this is a graph that they had on their op-ed page of the people, of their pundits who believe Biden won and who believe Trump won. And it kills them. It kills them to reveal this. And one last, Chris, if you'll indulge me, and we've seen a couple of these before, but there's a couple of other ones. If you can do that next one. We've seen the first two, Friedman and Bruni, but Patrick Healy, I'm hearing high anxiety from Democrats over Biden's debate performance. And the other one, it's after the debate. I don't think Joe Biden should be running. So interesting that they're panicking, right, Chris?
Yeah, and part of me is a little suspicious about all this because, they will keep false stories alive constantly. They could tell us that what we saw last night was, make something up. They still call January 6th insurrection. And there's people still saying, oh, those vaccines saved tens of millions. So they can keep lies going. So the fact that there's this about turn right away, I don't know what it means or what's going on, but I am suspicious because they don't just fold that easily, especially when you're folding in the direction of Trump.
Yeah.
So, who knows what it all means. But, I'm a little suspicious about all of this.
Well, Vivek Ramaswamy, who, despite some disagreements we have with his positions, is a pretty astute guy. He's no dummy, that's for sure. I think he had a good tweet. I don't know if you saw it, Chris, but if we can put it up, I think he basically captured what we've been saying in a sentence or two. If we can put that next one up. He says, the fact that anyone is shocked by Biden's brain-dead performance tonight is a scathing indictment of the media, which has gone to great lengths to cover this fact up for the public. Pithy, accurate, exactly. I think that's the main takeaway, Chris, at least for me.
Yeah, and after COVID and the media, they went all in on COVID, and they have lost so many viewers, and we see the numbers of the chart just declining of the people that pay attention to the mainstream media.
Yeah,
they didn't learn their lesson because this is going to hurt them even more, especially the people that still believe them. I'm sure believed, oh, Biden must be okay. The TV tells me this every day. Yeah. And everybody that challenges it, they're told that they're crazy, that, these are cheap fakes. So once again, the people that believe the media, how many lessons do you need to learn to realize that these people are not serving you?
Come on, guys, you got to watch the Liberty Report, if you want to know what's going on. Well, Chris, I know the main thing we wanted to do, and we've been gabbing for a while, we want to talk about our kind of takeaways in our areas of concentration. Yours is the economy, mine is more foreign policy. But I thought maybe before we did that, we can have a little bit more fun with this. Why not? It's Friday. It's a day to have a little fun. I had a couple of video clips that came out. The first one, I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's too long. It's a minute and a half. But Trump, his people, for whatever else problems they have, they're no dummies. And they put out an ad like right away after the debate. And as someone pointed out, it's probably one of the least expensive campaign ads ever made, but probably one of the most effective. So I'm going to let's watch, I don't know, a minute of this. But here's a Trump ad after the debate.
Both sides, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans. The impact on the choice, the idea that they're gonna, I'm proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I've not raised the cost of Social Security for anybody. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And wants to get away with get rid of the ability of.
I don't know, Chris, for me the most entertaining part was to seeing these two elderly gentlemen acting like young guys in their 20s fighting about how good they are at golf. I don't know what you thought about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to hear the clip, but I saw it.
Oh, okay.
But I do remember that part. It was, I couldn't believe what I was listening to, talking about their handicaps in golf. But when Biden was mumbling, and I almost had to ask myself, how could they let this happen?
Yeah.
The people that put him on the stage knew, they're with him. They're with him every day. How could they let him go up there? It's a mystery to me. But again, we don't know everybody's motives. Everybody has different motives. If anything, everybody now knows that the real situation. So we'll see what happens going forward, and maybe afterwards we could put pieces together. Oh, look how this worked out perfectly. So we'll see as time goes on.
I had one more, if you'll indulge me, Chris, and this is a very short one. It's only 6 seconds, but this is such a great. This is Trump. I honestly don't think Trump did very well last night for a number of reasons. But this is sort of. Hold on, 1 second. So I think this is actually Trump in his prime in a great way to handle it. Now I'm not seeing the clip on the screen. I don't know if you have to switch it over. Yeah, this is a very short one, so pay attention. I'm sorry you won't be able to hear it, Chris, but it's pretty funny.
More asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look,
more border.
He said, Chris, I don't know what he said at the end of that statement, and I don't think he knows what he said at the end of the statement.
Yeah, and that's the stuff we like about Trump. There were like 2 or 3 moments where I'm like, if he talked like this throughout the whole debate, it would have been a total, wipeout.
Yeah.
But, Trump, a lot of it was nonsense. We'll get into that. We'll get into actual issues. But, you can tell when he speaks from the heart and off the cuff, and that's where I think he's a winner. Yeah. He just doesn't do it often enough.
Yeah. Now, do you want to dive into your couple of your takeaways on the meat of the debate?
Yeah. We'll start off with the tariffs. This is something where Trump is just very bad. And I know it's political and why he does it, but tariffs are taxes that Americans pay. They are not taxes on China. Trump does not have any power to tax China. He can't send them a tax bill and say, you pay this or we're going to come after you. In the same way, China cannot tax us. I never get a tax bill in the mail that says you pay this tax to us or we're going to send the gendarmes after you, okay? The American president taxes us, and that's what tariffs are. And Trump is bragging about how the government is taking in so many tariffs that they won't, so many taxes and tariffs that they won't get rid of them. That's our money. That's money coming from our pockets to the federal government. That is not what we want. We want less of our money going to the federal government. The only way that America can be competitive is to shrink the size of government, get out of the multitude of regulations that makes us totally uncompetitive, all the woke stuff, the DEI. We are uncompetitive in the world because of our own doing. And unless that gets addressed someday, and it will when we're forced into it, all this tariff nonsense is just more taxes on us and higher prices. So Trump is stuck on this. He does it for political reasons. I'm sure it gets him votes, but it's very bad for the American people.
Yeah, on the foreign policy front, Chris, I was disappointed because I think in 2016 he very wisely ran as the peace candidate against Hillary, who is a warmongering monster, and I think it was very effective. I did not see that in him last night. I didn't see him saying, he did say once that this guy's leading us to World War III. That's great. But then when you get into the meat of what he said, and my good friend Kelly Vlahos did a good piece in Responsible Statecraft. You guys can dig it up and look at it. So she did a little bit of my homework for me. But the three things that I noticed, and she wrote about too, is okay. He attacked Biden for getting out of Afghanistan. Now that's okay. Maybe they didn't do it perfectly. I don't think Trump would have done any better. Probably we probably still would be there. But that's something you can't knock Biden on. That was inevitable. He said it was disgraceful how he got us out of Afghanistan. Come on, as our mentor and partner Ron Paul says, just get out, just go home, just march home. The other one was that he accused Biden of encouraging Russia to invade Ukraine. Now, I guess that would be a partially true because he did, but he did it when he was a vice president under Obama back in 2014. It didn't happen at the end of 21 and 22. And the third one that was just really dopey is that he encouraged Hamas to attack Israel. If I was president, Hamas never would have attacked Israel. As if the only reason October 7th happened was that Hamas was sitting around there saying, oh yeah, Biden's in office. Let's get in our lawn chairs and fire them up and go start this attack. No, come on. It just showed, a lack of seriousness about foreign policy, and I found that kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. And the one thought that came to mind, and I even tweeted it or put it on X, is this was American democracy in action. It was a total embarrassment on television. The entire world saw it. And I thought to myself, our country has destroyed so many nations. I mean, we could sit here and list them all, turn them to rubble in order to bring them democracy and freedom. I mean, what a disgrace. And we used to be the land of the free. You know that they don't even talk about freedom. The word liberty doesn't even come up. They never even mention it. It's all centered on the government. I'm going to do this. We did this. We gave free this. We're bringing prices. It's all about them. It is nothing about the American people. It's nothing about freedom, nothing about liberty. They won't even say the words. And, I'm sure that the world leaders that watch this saw this and say, this is a nation that is, it's just a matter of time. It's just what decisions will they make between now and then? Will they go into world war and finish themselves off this way? Or will, they bite the bullet, say this whole world empire thing is it's bankrupted us, and it's time to start taking care of America for once in the last 100 years. Hopefully it's the latter, but I'm sure they're all banking it on being the former.
Yeah, that's a great point, Chris. That's exactly what I said as I took my empty wine glass to the sink last night when it was done. I said they were both competing. Now, I gave more to the people. No, I gave more to the people. No, I gave more. It's pretty disgraceful. But do you have another econ thing that you noticed?
Just one more quick one. Yeah, the inflation. They like to talk about who's responsible. I hate to say it, but we did a show on it. President Trump is largely responsible for the inflation that we're suffering under. He passed that $6 trillion CARES Act during COVID. That did not have to happen. That was the fuel that started the fire. And Dr. Paul and I did a show. We said, if they do this, inflation is going to skyrocket. And he did it. And Thomas Massie, the great representative from Kentucky, he stood alone saying this, you should not do this. He voted against it. And Trump called him a third-rate politician, at the time. I believe he retracted that. But at that time, Trump was pushing for this $6 trillion CARES Act. The Fed had to print trillions of dollars. We are suffering from it today. Biden is also responsible. He didn't help the inflation, but he added on to what Trump started. And, nobody's going to talk about that because it's, it won't help them. But I lay the blame on President Trump.
Yeah, deservedly so. Well, the last one I had, I'm going to skip those last two video clips because we pretty much covered it. But Kelly, helpfully in her piece on responsible statecraft, had a part of the transcript, and this is a part where I'm going to give Trump like half marks. Okay, but he's talking about Ukraine. He said this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, then he said Biden led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's been anything like it. Every time Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest statesman ever, or greatest salesman ever. So I thought that was a good part. He did say, and it was a clip, but we're not going to bother with switching over anything. He did say something, though, that may have shocked, again, the people who only rely on the mainstream media, which is he said that Ukraine is losing this war. Now, of course, he followed up by saying, if I was president, things will be different. But he did, that was a hard lesson in reality that a lot of people probably haven't heard. Ukraine's losing and they're going to lose, guys. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Right. I would only add, he kept saying that would have never happened. The Russians do not want NATO on their borders, period.
Yeah.
And President Trump, I believe, supported sending $60 billion. I believe when he was president, he sent arms to Ukraine. I don't care if President Trump was in office. Russia is not going to have Ukraine or NATO on their borders, no matter who's president. I don't think Putin would say, well, you could have NATO there if Trump is president. Yeah, absolutely not.
Right. And, he has these, and I don't know if Trump read this report, but so apparently this last week, a couple of dopey Trump foreign affairs advisors, General Kellogg's a loser, Fred Flight's a hardcore neocon. They put this policy paper together about how Trump was going to turn it around, and it's the most ridiculous thing ever. It's basically Trump is going to tell Ukraine, you better come to the table and talk, or we won't give you any more weapons. And they're going to tell Putin, you better come here and sit down, or we're going to give Ukraine a lot more weapons. Well, that's not going to work. The bluster's not going to work. They've already given Ukraine everything they wanted, and they're losing. So anyway, I wish I hope, given the field of candidates, I hope Trump wins because there's a chance he'll do something good. There's no chance that Biden and whoever's pulling his strings will do any good at all.
Right. I agree. And we could get lucky. President Trump, I think, can do the right things if he also has to surround himself with the right people.
Yeah.
That's yet to be seen. I do want to make one more comment about Biden. He kept saying it last night that we are the envy of the world, and I'm like, this is not the night for you to be saying we are the envy of the world. We are not the envy of the world. The world is trying to extricate itself from us. They're joining the BRICS. There's like 50 countries that want to join. They're stopping using the dollar. We are not, and that's the thing that has to turn us around, is we have to start being truthful with ourselves. This lying to ourselves and to the world is not getting us anywhere. It's just making things worse.
Yeah, the thing that people actually admire about America, the government does its best to stamp out, our ingenuity. I had a couple more clips to serve as my closing, Chris, and then I was going to throw it over to you if that's okay.
Yep.
To close out. So the first one now, everyone, as we started the show talking about, everyone is saying, oh my gosh, Biden really is bad. We got to find someone else. Now, Sean Davis, I'm not sure, I think he's with the Federalist, but I know he's a right-winger, and he had a tweet that's actually pretty good, pretty insightful if we can I know Sir Cohn's back there going nuts, but so this is a pretty good tweet. After spending 4 years bleeding about our sacred democracy, how exactly did Democrats plan to throw out every single primary vote, ignore every single primary election, and just install a new nominee? To which I would say, very good question. And the last thing I'm going to put up there, Chris, and I'm just going to say, be careful. This is a horror scenario. This is going to scare our audience. So what's it called? Scare alert. The whispers of Hillary Clinton 2024 have started. She's got her makeup on. She is ready for action, Chris. I don't know. The only reason I would like to see it happen is I want to see her go head to head with Trump again. So over to you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. I mean, that's scary because if I can't imagine what the country would look like after her administration, and that's now we're taking a further downward spiral. But yeah, seeing them battle it out would be entertaining. We had a chance, and perhaps Americans weren't ready for it, but perhaps someday they will be ready for it. When somebody like a Ron Paul comes out and says what he said, I don't want to run your life. I don't know how to run your life. That's not what the government is here. You're free people to live freely. The government will be in the background to enable free people to, create a society that flourishes. We are on the polar opposite end of that spectrum, where it's all government all the time. They can't stop talking about themselves and what they're going to do. So we can turn this around. Perhaps someday somebody will come with Dr. Paul's message, and the American people will be ready for it. That's something exciting. So I'll close out, Daniel, what we talked about, and you mentioned this on the show almost every day, but I'll put my opinions in, and that's our conference coming up at the end of August in Virginia. We look forward to meeting everybody. We're in studios. I'm in my home. We don't meet our viewers, and there's so many of you out there. So it's so great to get together with like-minded people to throw around these ideas in person. We have great speakers. Daniel has talked about it. Judge Napolitano, Joe Salatin, John Mearsheimer. I mean, this is going to be another good one. So please join us. Daniel will put a link in the description of our show. Come see us, come meet us. We want to meet you. And hopefully we'll see you there at the end of August. And I'll close by saying thank you for listening to our show today. Dr. Paul will be back, and I'm sure he's going to be excited to see you again. Thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.